Mandatory minicamp starts tomorrow. You demanded Chris Emma from The Score. He said yes. Welcome in to the Windy City podcast. Chris Emma making his debut. No one has spent more time, with the exception of a few, at Hallis Hall, Soldier Field, the last, call it, a decade. Chris, thanks for being here, brother. Appreciate it.
Carm, highlight of my day, highlight of my week. That includes practice, minicamp starting up, like you said, tomorrow up at Hallis Hall. But this is it. This is what I'm here for. It's good to be with you, buddy.
I appreciate it, brother. So this is, if you're first checking out the Windy City Chicago Bears podcast, we're live on YouTube every Monday, 5 Central. Thank you for being here. Audio podcast comes out the next day. You can follow myself on Twitter at The Carm. You can follow Chris C. Emma 670. Yes, hit me up on the TikTok too. We are living by the hits principle on the Windy. Hustle, intensity, takeaways. We play smart. And by the way, Chris Emma, the forecast this week, 96, 92, 88. Do you think the Chicago Bears are going to be outside just sweating it out and proving themselves? Because we already lost one day of OTAs. We don't want dehydrated Bears, but it's a good opportunity to see who's in shape, baby, who's ready. A little organic moment for Eberflus and company.
Absolutely, they're going to be outside. Yeah, it's. I don't think the heat's going to scare Flus away. Like, this is an old school football coach. He wants those guys to get toughened up. He wants them playing in the heat because it's prep up. You get ready for July into August. You get that heat pounded down pretty much every day when you're out on the practice field. So, yeah, I think they'll be outside.
Would you say that you're all in on the Flus? Because in previous The Windy City episodes where I thought I made fair points about the Bears losing a practice day and maybe that there is some Eberflus Boylan comps that we can make. People hated that one with Jim Boylan, but like Bears fans just like I get it. Hey, listen, I'm wearing the t-shirt today. I put on the hat. I got you. I'm all in. Bears, let's win some football games, or let's lose a lot and get an amazing draft pick. By the way, we're going to get to DK Metcalf in like 2 minutes. But I Bears fans don't want to hear negative on the head coach here, but I think we got to sort of split the baby if you want. Where are you at in the early moments of the Flus?
I'm warming up to it. I'm figuring it out. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Like, that wasn't the direction I would have gone with this state of the Bears where you're trying to develop. Everything's about Justin Fields right now. It's all about developing the quarterback, building an offense around him. And it seemed counterproductive to go with a defensive-minded coach and worry about that side of the football, because that means in turn you're bringing in a young offensive coordinator who's going to be trying it out for the first time. Luke Getsy, like, Matt Eberflus wasn't going to be able to get that veteran proven OC. And he took a chance on a good young offensive-minded Getsy, but honestly, when you hire a guy like Eberflus, who's a veteran defensive mind, it really makes the focus so much more on Getsy and what he can do with Fields. So everything you mentioned, the hits principle, and I've heard a lot about building the culture and doing things the right way there. We'll see. I'm starting to feel it out a little bit more. It's I'm getting a sense of how this is going to work, but like I said, ultimately, Matt Eberflus, a defensive-minded coach, is going to succeed or fail based on what Justin Fields does in his development.
Yeah, that is the truth here. And look, this is all going to come down to, can they coach up Justin Fields? Can they protect Justin Fields? Can they add on to the talent on the roster for Justin Fields? Bears fans, hit me up in the comments on this one. Do you want the Bears to be aggressive earlier in their time frame? Credit to morning show host with you over at The Score, David Haw, who first had this take a couple weeks ago. David always on the cusp, on the cutting edge of the hot take, if you will. And he's DK Metcalf, star game-changing wide receiver. Seattle is still out there. The Seahawks are in a major rebuild. Do the Bears kick the tires, maybe more than that, and move forward in their plan by giving up their first-round draft pick, which should be a very high pick this year considering the talent on the roster, and whatever else it would take to bring DK Metcalf, who, by the way, has a dad who was a guard for the Bears, and Terrence Metcalf, so maybe he would love to be in Chicago and follow his dad's history and wear the blue and orange, all of it. Do you get a guy like that to team up with Darnell Mooney to help out Justin Fields, to all of a sudden launch yourself into what would be a completely different feeling of an offense going into training camp. With a young Velus Jones, we'll throw him in there. You look very skeptical, go Chris Emma. But I'm actually warming up to the concept myself, because who are you going to draft that's going to be as good as DK Metcalf? Yes, you're going to have to pay him and all that, and you got to pay Fields. But you know what? If you have that guy, you want to pay him. He's DK damn Metcalf, right?
You know, I was initially just going to poo-poo this idea and kind of shoot it down and probably ruin your Monday, but you got me looking a little bit here. DK Metcalf is actually younger than Velus Jones. And I know Velus Jones is an old rookie at 25, but DK Metcalf is an established receiver at 24. Like, that fits the time frame of winning down the road. Like, you can get a guy like Metcalf, and it's not throwing out the farm. He's not 28, 29 where you're like, okay, what's he going to be like when you start contending? Like, he's somebody you can build a roster with. I've sold myself a little bit more on this in the last, I don't know, minute, 2 minute, whatever. I don't know if it makes sense. You know, it depends obviously on what the cost is and what you have to give up. I don't see it happening. It's a fun conversation to have, but you can at least make sense of it, right? If he is, like I said, 24 years old, turns 25 in December, like, he's that age where if Justin Fields takes that leap with him, you start building something on offense. You feel better about your chance to win earlier in this window.
Let's go a step further. Look, you already wasted 1 year of Fields' rookie deal, right? So you're kind of on the clock here. You have to know that you are short offensively right now, significantly short. Who the hell, how this offense, we'll get to the offensive line in a second here, but you are missing, even if Darnell Mooney is, say, a 1B, you are missing 1A, and I'm giving Mooney a bump to 1B. And I love Darnell Mooney. That guy is tough as hell, but I mean, let's be real here. You're missing a number one dude. And if the price tag is next year's number one and, say, I don't know, a third round pick in 2024, something along those lines, and maybe another later round draft pick, I can talk myself into that. I really can. I think it makes a lot of sense.
That. Yeah, when you put it like that, and I don't know what the cost would be. I'd have to look at comparables and things like that in terms of potential offering. But I can be sold on that if it's anything more than that. Like, if you're doing what Ryan Pace did, like, let's put it out there. Like, you can't make that aggressive move for one player and just neglect so much of the rest of the roster. Like, what they're doing right now with Ryan Poles is acknowledging the glaring holes across the roster. That's what this offseason has been about. And it's why they didn't reach for a receiver in the second round and went corner and safety. Like, I know Bears fans were upset about that, and we talked about already about the importance of Justin Fields and developing him this season, but Ryan Poles knows this team is just not very good right now, and they're a long way in terms of getting to that sustained success point. Like, that's why they traded down and made 11 draft picks this year. That's why they've taken so many guys in that mid-20s type window of their careers who you hope have some higher upside and a bunch of flyers throughout free agency. Ryan Poles knows that he's got time. He's got the patience of ownership. He's got the ability to do this thing his way. Fill that roster with, like, he's already overturned more than half of this roster. So he's doing this slow build, and I tip my cap to that. It's going to be probably a really tough season for the Bears, if you're being honest about it, but you want to find those strides starting at the quarterback position, and that's kind of what the season's all about.
It is. And just to wrap up this part of the conversation where we get to Justin Fields, we got the video. I'm sure you've seen it, but you always want to watch it again and again and again. Fields hitting home runs at Wrigley Field was a sweet moment last week. But look, hey Ryan, from all of us here at the Windy City Podcast, and from Chris Emma, who I guess convincing slightly on the fly here, which sort of David Haw did with me earlier today. Kick the tires here, man. Let's find out what the price is. Let's have a real conversation of what impact that could have. And you never know what the time frame for these rebuilds are, and you don't know who's going to become available. A guy like that would be hella dynamic, if I may say whatever the hell I just said. I'm a little out of my comfort zone now. But look, DK Metcalf, I think, is at the bare minimum, is at least like worth significantly exploring. All right. Emma, talk to me about what's going on with the offensive line. It was a weird week last week, at least by the way I saw it. You lined up Larry Borum at left tackle, and I'm like, all right, sweet. You moved Tevin Jenkins out of there. That felt like a real deal. And then the next week, you move Borum from left to right. And I know everybody doesn't listen, offensive line talk doesn't exactly move the needle here, but it's interesting what the Bears are doing. He was at left, now he's at right. Jenkins is a backup, which even in OTAs, that doesn't seem to play particularly well for him. Borum, for the record, I'll remind people, he made 8 starts last year, all at right tackle. But if you move him off a left tackle, now you've got a 5th-round pick in Braxton Jones lining up at left tackle. I mean, sure, first team All Big Sky last year. There you go. But this is a 5th-round pick. And I'll shout out to my guy Brad Biggs, Chicago Tribune, in one of Biggs' piece this week. Since 2010, 12 rookie offensive tackles have been drafted in the 5th round or later to start a minimum of 8 games. 3 did so for the Bears. You want to guess at him, Chris? Could you do that? 5th round or later, started a minimum of 8 games as a rookie.
Since 2010?
Since 2010. I would not have pulled this, but maybe you're...
Charles Leno, right? That's one.
He's not on the list. Nope.
No?
Not as a rookie. Not as a rookie.
Okay, I think it's his second year he stepped in for Bushrod. Goodness, what a bad guessing game this is. I don't even know. Help me out.
Jordan Mills, 2013.
Okay.
Jamarcus Webb, 2010. And Borum last year. So it's not exactly a star-studded list as Biggs writes it.
Terrible.
And he says Philadelphia Eagles left tackle, I hope I'm saying this right, Jordan Mailata is an outlier from the former Australian rugby standpoint. But the point being, 5th-round draft picks, stepping in as a left tackle as a rookie, that shit does not happen. It's not a good formula for success. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but it's like last year in August, they signed Jason Peters. I believe it was August the 14th. So it almost feels like we're headed towards that direction again, which is damn ass terrifying.
They like Braxton Jones. I'll counter with that. I was told that they had really high grades on Braxton Jones, somebody they would have considered on day 2, as a 3rd-round pick when they went Velus Jones there. They really like this kid. Some background on him, you mentioned, Big Sky is a standout at Southern Utah. I know you're a big Southern Utah guy.
Huge.
But so they traveled out to Salt Lake City on the Monday before the draft. They sent out their assistant offensive line coach as well as a scout. And they confirmed what they felt. They saw him at the Senior Bowl, and they saw him really doing well against big-time competition. And they really kind of became enamored with this kid as a prospect. So that final meeting was about seeing him, getting him workout with him, and truly kind of understanding what they were going to be selecting here. And they felt really fortunate to get him in the 5th round. And look, obviously, if 31 other teams have a different scouting report that says he should have been 5th round or below, then you kind of throw that all out the window. But this is a new regime. We're kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt early on. And I'm curious to see how this works out. They're not married to Tevin Jenkins or to Larry Borum. That was a Ryan Pace. Pickup. That was not a Ryan Poles pickup. And they want to see Borum and Jenkins step in for their own. And, of course, that means doing it in training camp to get the full pads on. There's going to be some serious competition. I think it's going to be a 3-man competition for those 2 spots.
That's super interesting. You're telling me that you think that this is not just some OTA. I don't buy that they're trying to motivate Tevin Jenkins, because Tevin Jenkins is motivated. Dude's doing Pilates. He's changed his diet. He's not drinking beer. You stop drinking beer, that means you're pretty damn ass motivated. I'm on a new diet myself. It ain't easy. I gave in last night. Shout out to you, Joe Brand, who somehow got me to a bar on Sunday night, which I was not planning on doing. But
I go to a bar on Sunday night for
Of course. But I was of the mindset I'm not doing anything. Today is like a 100% all-in day, and then I gave in on myself. I hate that I did that. But it was a good Cabernet, a couple sips of whiskey, and that was the night. But regardless, this dude's committed. So you don't need to motivate Tevin Jenkins. You don't need to motivate Larry Borum. So this is a move that they think hey man, you, for whatever reason, whatever they're seeing, Tevin, we're putting you over here, and Larry, let me put you back over there because we actually like however Braxton Jones is moving around. So that's interesting that you're saying that they've been high on him for a while. So
I
okay.
would not be surprised if Braxton Jones starts a handful of games this season at left tackle. Like,
wow,
injuries, whatever, put that aside. We'll see if they sign a tackle off the streets. I don't know if they're calling Jason Peters back again, but you could still pick up somebody off the streets. Dakota Dozier, who you saw at right guard last week at OTAs, is also a swing tackle candidate. So throw him in that mix as well. They got a couple developmental guys as well, but I would not be surprised if Braxton Jones starts considerable games next season.
So, well, okay, and Borum was a 5th-round pick last year, so, and he had, I mean, give Larry Borum credit for having a successful rookie year considering all the circumstances. And listen, if you're right and that happens, feather in the cap of Ryan Poles, buddy. You know, people were, Ed Obradovich, my guy, was screaming about the fact they weren't taking an offensive lineman early. I'm like, hey, man, listen, do you want to take the 9th offensive lineman, or do you want to take a corner who hopefully will be able to step in on day one, which, by the way, is a huge-ass need. So I didn't have any problem with it. But if he hits on Braxton Jones, that'd be big time. That'd be big time, Ryan Poles.
Well, consider, too, Ryan Poles was an offensive lineman coming up at Boston College. He knows offensive linemen. He knows how to scout them. He's got a type. Like, he's got a type in O-lineman, and it's nasty. It's leaner. Like, he wants zone blocking. They're going to be running the zone run scheme, and he wants guys who can get outside and attack. Like, and he's filled up this offensive line with a lot of his guys. Like, Lucas Patrick's going to be your starting center. That's a Ryan Poles guy all the way. They've developed the bodies of these players. You mentioned Tevin Jenkins, the diet that he kind of committed to, dropping 20 pounds. He's more athletic now. He's able to get outside on a run to the outer edge and attack somebody on the edge there. Like, open up that hole for David Montgomery. But beyond that, he's drafted guys like Braxton Jones, who he believes can fit that type as well. And if you want to buy in, if you want to drink the Kool-Aid, and you should, it's June of year one for Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. Like,
let's get drunk.
Drink the Kool. Yeah, why not? Like, I think you can buy into that, the idea of this young general manager who's got a background in the offensive line, scouting the guys that he believes in.
I do think we're going just don't take this as negative, Bears fans. I'm getting that in the podcast world, you really want your host to be all in on the team. So I appreciate that. But you know, we're also going to be fair here as we build the channel. And I just want to say, just because he played offensive line, that doesn't necessarily make him an offensive line drafting guru. Let's see a little bit of the proof in the pudding type of thing. If I'm saying that, you know, like he might be, but we don't. I think we're giving just a little too much credit to. Well, he's an offensive lineman, so he's an offensive. Well, okay, we'll see. And I love the way they went about the draft. Take a bunch of swings late. You like Braxton Jones the most, so you picked him in the 5th round. And okay, we're in OTAs. The dude's already starting. Hey Chris, let's move to the quarterback, and let me play the. And I'm the first time on the show. You won't be able to see this, but we're gonna play the home run at Wrigley, which you can watch it in your mind right now. But if you missed Justin Fields at Wrigley Field and you ever had a slight concern or doubt that this dude isn't an insane athlete, here you go.
Okay. Hey, that's gone. Hey! Okay, one.
I mean, I like my quarterback to hit homers at Wrigley Field. And shout out to the greatest athlete to ever play anything, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, who was 2 for 4 at Wrigley in that fake game against the Cubs, which was awesome, hitting the double off of Dave Otto. And I think a Chuck Krim was out there that day. Jordan also, by the way, homering in BP at Old Comiskey Park. But now Justin Fields and a bunch of Bears stepping up. So, Emma, this means that Fields is going to be awesome in year 2, does it not?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I think so for
Thank
sure.
You.
It's funny. I saw that video last week, and I kind of went back on some of the old scouting reports. He was actually a big-time baseball prospect. Like, he could very well right now be in the major leagues. And the scouting reports were very high on him, but everyone ended top quarterback prospect in the country. Like, he's going to play football. There was no doubt about that. But shortstop prospect, great range. He learned a lot about what he has in terms of playing football through playing baseball, including aspects like sliding when he's escaping the pocket and trying to make a play. Like, there's a lot of natural baseball instincts. Throw it on the run, of course. Like, think about those shortstop throws deep in the hole trying to get somebody at first base. Like, a lot of what he took playing quarterback comes from playing shortstop. And I want to see him take batting practice every week now.
Me too. And for the record, just for anybody who's not taking batting practice and thinks it's easy to step up at Wrigley Field and take one out, even if they're throwing them meatballs right down the middle, that's some serious ass talent. It's hard enough to, a rip shot up the middle, no big deal for anyone. But to take it out, that's impressive. Not that we needed any further proof that Justin Fields is a great athlete, but I love seeing it. And I've been saying each week here that the amount of flowers that's being thrown Fields' way, to me, Chris, just feels a little bit off. Like he's the hardest working guy in the room. Nobody cares as much as I'm like, really? All these guys who got to the NFL don't care as much. But I thought like Justin Jones was up there last week, who's the Bears' new 3 technique after Larry Ogunjobi didn't work out. I want to put this clip up here, and I thought it was interesting what Justin Jones said, which was kind of taken as sort of a compliment, but I sort of read it the other way. I don't know how you looked at it, but this was Jones when asked about Fields. I think Justin Fields, he's coming over from the Chargers, and Justin Herbert's obviously one of the top young quarterbacks in the game, going to be a perennial All-Pro, you would think. And so I think Justin Fields is a different quarterback from Justin Herbert, stating the obvious there. A little different player, different guys. What I'll say about Justin Fields, though, is he really loves the game of football. He has a commanding leadership on the field, a legit field general. He gets guys wound up, gets guys going. To me, that just reeks of he doesn't throw the football like Justin Herbert. He's not as accurate as Justin Herbert. He's not even as talented as a pure passer as Justin Herbert. But, hey, his leadership is sweet. Herbert's a little quiet. That's what they say about him. So Fields is more dynamic that way. But, you're asking me to compare the two. What I'm reading there is that Herbert's ahead of him. Did you hear it that way at all?
I try not to when one quarterback, in particular, the quarterback is compared to another. I try not to just make the leaps between. Matt Eberflus also made a comment in which he likened Dak Prescott and Justin Fields in the same comparison. So I try not to make the leap. I might be breaking a little bit of the Stevie Sunshine memo, as you're saying, for the podcast, but I'd offer this advice to Bears fans in terms of just try to take a step back and see things objectively with Justin Fields this season, because that's what the Bears organization is trying to do. Like Ryan Poles, and this goes for every player that they inherited on this roster too, but Fields in particular, they want to see it for themselves. Like they want to see the work on the field. They want to see what strategies he can make off the field, understanding Luke Getsy's system. There's the reason why they haven't made that DK Metcalf type move for Justin Fields, is because they want to see for themselves to be sure this is our guy. This is the guy we want to build with. This is the guy we want to move forward with. It's June. Ultimately, you find out about that in the fall and the culmination of all that work leading to that point. But they want to see it for themselves.
That's super interesting that you go there. You think that they wouldn't make a move for DK Metcalf right now because they're not sure about the quarterback. That's a big statement, Chris M. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's a big ass statement right there. I believe. Well, right. Proof in the pudding. They haven't done it. Okay, so there's that,
and not just Metcalf, but I mean anybody. Like free agency, they didn't go get a big time receiver. There's a ton of them out there. They could have paid a ton of money. They have all the cap space they need. They didn't go get that stalwart on the offensive line. Like they got Lucas Patrick, who's a nice player, somebody you can build with, but that's not the 7-time Pro Bowl whatever. Like they haven't made those bold moves that you do with the rookie contract of a quarterback you believe in, and it's because they want to see it for themselves.
Wow. So, I think the way I've been sort of taking it is that they have inherited a roster amazingly with 8,000 holes. Oh, yeah. We need help at cornerback. Oh, we need help at safety. Oh, we need help on the offensive line. Oh, we need more receivers. We have 7,000 needs here, so we can't do this all overnight. And we can't mortgage a bunch of draft picks because we have so many holes to plug. But you're adding in there that they're not sure on the quarterback, which logically makes sense, by the way. How could they be? He was 2-8 and had one of the lowest QBRs of any rookie quarterback going. He wasn't good despite the amount of talent and I'm sure they're well aware that he wasn't coached well. But like if you put the lie detector on them as to why they're not being aggressive, how much is it because they're not sure about the QB? I'd love to see how that would come out.
Look, I mean, they've not been effusive in their praise of Justin Fields, and to what I was saying before is that they haven't gone out and made that move that says we believe in this guy. Like, there's a lot of butts he threw out for his rookie season. You mentioned it, 2-8, and the struggles were there. But Nagy, but the receiving group, the offensive line, there's so many reasons why he didn't play up to his capabilities. But there also wasn't enough that says this is our guy from his rookie season.
You don't think they've been effusive in their praise with him? I mean, I feel like
I don't think Ryan Poles has yet. Matt Eberflus has it. They've been effusive in the praise of the person. You haven't heard them say beyond just he throws a good deep ball or specific things that Fields does on the field. You haven't heard the head coach or the general manager say this is our guy. Like he's got everything it takes. You hear about the potential. Like Ryan Poles has talked about high ceiling and potential for him, but he hasn't said this is my guy.
Okay, so you're nuancing the conversation to a greater detail, which I appreciate, Emma. Like that's because you're right. There a lot of it is his work ethic, his leadership, how he's commanding the room, first guy in, first guy out. But and Eberflus did say the other day he likes how he throws the deep ball.
Great deep ball.
But we haven't heard like, listen, this guy commands I mean, maybe he's getting more command of the offenses. By the way, we're 3 seconds into this regime, but I suppose because I mean, before 10 seconds ago, I would have said they've been overflowing in praise for Justin Fields to try to sort of sell Justin Fields. I don't know, Justin Fields into the masses here. But you could make an argument, I think a legit one, that there is another level that they could go. Fair enough. Mark Potash had a little bit of an interesting note on the command of the huddle leadership thing and that conversation. And he writes, command of the leadership is one of those off-season accolades that turns into a fallacy by September. Chase Daniel said it about Trubisky. Victor Cruz said it about Mike Glennon. Forte said it about Josh McCown. Damn it, Josh McCown had full command. For Zach Miller about Cutler. Trubisky about Tyler Bray. So command of the huddle might not mean a whole lot coming from.
I will throw something in there, though, because there is actually an important point for this for Justin Fields. Was a year ago, part of why Matt Nagy, in the previous regime, you could throw all kinds of criticism out there, be totally warranted, but they saw Fields struggling with command of the huddle. Just part of that one of the most important part of it is getting the play out the right way. Like those plays are long and complicated, and every detail is an assignment for somebody. That game, December against the Vikings, they had a 4th down and short play, and they were trying to get a quick snap off. And Fields got to the huddle, then he said almost everything except he broke the huddle before getting that last part out. That last part was Darnell Mooney, who was the top read, which I don't know why the top read is the last part of that huddle on a quick snap. Mooney didn't know what the play was, and that play broke down, and the Bears were stopped on 4th down. That's part of command of the huddle that Justin Fields has really gotten, or from what we've heard, from what people have said around that building, that he's gotten a better hold of now. Okay,
and he should, for the record. Like you've been here longer. I don't trust. I don't have any distrust whatsoever that this guy is going to be able to comprehend the offense, to get the most out of his ability, right? Like, I think he's going to get there. However, I don't know. I just I look at the talent that he was playing with at Ohio State, and there was a lot of throws that, hey, these guys are making it awful easy on them. They're they're a talent every which way. So we'll see. Back to the DK Metcalf thing. Go out and get him. Or you want to? Hey, Terry McLaurin. That's interesting. That's what's going on in Washington right now. And by the way, shout out to Marcus Spears. Go on Twitter for anybody if you want to hear what he said about Jack Del Rio. It was just straight brilliant. So credit to Marcus as I took a left turn here. Chris, I got a couple questions here before we get on out. I threw this one at your teammate Mark Grody last week. There's 2 here. We love you, Mark Grody. Number 1, if you had to say right today, the strength of this Bears team is, what do you got?
Oh, do I have to?
Yeah.
I think young talent on defense. and it's not quite there yet. But I see the building blocks there. Like that defense is a lot further along than the offense is, and you can start to look at guys. Obviously, Roquan Smith in the middle. That's your, you hope he's your Darius Leonard for this defense, and get that contract extension done at some point in the next year. Get that thing or next how many months, whatever. But that's obviously your building block. You got young pieces, obviously your 2 second-round picks. Justin Jones, we mentioned before. I think he could be a really good player as that 3 technique. Like they've got both guys who we were talking about and other guys kind of behind the radar or under the radar that you could say that's some of the pieces you build with defensively. And you got your defensive-minded head coach who's building his system. I think that's a major positive potentially as you work through this season and you see the strides of that defense.
All right, we got. I can buy it. Kyler Gordon, I'm looking at you, buddy. I am believing in that pick more than any other pick. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Jalen Johnson, but I'm assuming that that's going to move in the right direction. Despite we got a thought on that.
I wouldn't put much stock into that. I don't see Matt Eberflus as the kind of guy who's trying to play psychological games with his guys in May and June. Like I take him at his word when he says don't worry about him not working with the first team initially. Like I think it was just a workload thing. I think Johnson and Gordon could be a really good tandem defensively in that cornerback position. That secondary looks a lot better now than it did last year.
Okay, I did think he was trying to make some level of statement that, hey, we know that you had a great year last year. We know that you were the number 1 cornerback here. But by the way, you had 1 damn interception and overall the secondary, which is bad. Granted, there was 1 guy getting to the quarterback, which will be interesting if we'll see from Robert Quinn here at mandatory minicamp. I'm assuming he's going to show up, right? You believe that?
Probably, yeah, I think so. I also wouldn't be surprised if he's just not there. This is a guy who's played for a decade plus and really accomplished guy. I don't think he's worried about it. And he's made enough money where that fine is nothing for him. So he's a different kind of dude. So I would not be surprised. I also don't think he's worried about it at all. And I don't think the Bears are worried about it at all.
That'd be odd though. Like your first year here, you got paid a bunch of dough and you couldn't play. Not to your fault, you were hurt, but you had 1 really great year. I would think you would toe the line here and just be professional and show up and say, and at the same time saying, hey, look, if you can find my way to a contender that can benefit you at the same time, I would really appreciate it because I don't know how many more spins I'm going to have at this, considering what my body's been through. That would be totally fair, but yeah. I don't know. So, but okay. I'll give you another one. The breakout star for the Bears in 2022 will be.
Oof. That's a great question. I'm going to go Khalil Herbert.
Wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if Justin Fields was an answer I could have done. I guess that's probably be the one that might be my answer. Actually, I'll go twofold. I'll go with those guys. I think Fields does have a really strong season. I think he makes strides even without the DK Metcalf in that group. Like I think the biggest change for Justin Fields is going to be the competence on offense, and having an offensive coordinator is going to fit a system to him. And part of that, as I transition with this statement here, is the running game. They're going to have a multifaceted running game. Matt Nagy, for all of his issues with the running game, they were so dead set on having just David Montgomery be that back. Like they didn't open up the backfield at all. They like Khalil Herbert a lot. They see him as a guy who can really make an impact with this running game. I think he has a really strong second season and first season with this new tenure.
All right. Hey, listen, if that happens, if you got Montgomery rolling and you've got Herbert rolling, and hey, I'll even throw you in there, Treston Ebner, the 6th round pick, who, well, I mean, and Valus, and somehow, I mean, I'm almost like running the option right now to trying to create an offense here, but like I don't know, they're gonna have to get creative on how they somehow, some way get this offense moving with the dearth of talent that is at wide receiver. I mean, Byron Pringle, maybe you'll have a great year, but they if they don't trade. Think about it there, Sir Poles and company. That'd be unbelievable if they jump-started this thing. We made a trade for DK Metcalf. Bears fans would, now that's not why you do things. Everybody went nuts when they traded for Jay Cutler, except for me. I love Kyle Orton, damn it. But if they did that, it would be well, the guy that would be dancing in the streets the most would be Justin Fields. be honest about that. All right, I want to end up with something fun here. And okay, Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are gone. Ryan Pace, Emma, I'm going complete left turn here, so stay with me. They were both living in Lake Bluff. Pace bought his house for $1.3 million, 3,726 square foot house, East Center Avenue, and he sold it for $1.4 million. Nagy,
I think I should be taking notes here.
Yeah, Nagy, who had never been a head coach before, they bought a house for $2.75 million. 6-bedroom, 9,400 square foot mansion in Lake Bluff. And then he added on to it. He put in his hoop court and all this stuff. And Pace's house is sold, and he made $100,000, and that's not terrible on a, he's making about 8% on the call there, and good job. Nagy's trying to sell this thing for $5.95 million. Has not sold, still out there. I did some research. I won't give the address, but it's not hard to figure it out. So who's smarter? Nagy, who paid double for the house and it's still sitting out there, or Pace, who went more moderate, made a couple dollars, and I think this speaks into a mindset thing. I'm really reaching here. But one dude went conservative with his house relative to his dollars. I mean, these guys are making a lot of dough so they can afford these things. Nagy, on the other hand, went all in on the house, put the massive renovations in there. Let me get my suite. Let me get this room that I'm going to put everything up that's going to be on, for when we're doing draft night. Everyone's going to look at my wall, and then we're going to try to sell this thing for double. Things not selling. I think I'm going to go do a video at Nagy's house, by the way, on one of these mini camp days. You want to join me over there? We'll just sit outside Nagy's house. But
I'm in. Yeah.
I think there's something to the Nagy purchase of the house that just reeks of just a kind of a buffoon. That's like what you went for the $3 million house as a head coach, and then you put all the what did you think you were going to be here forever because you had one great season? You had 12-4. Didn't you realize that this is the Bears and that you were going to get your ass fired, and now you're going to have this huge ass house? I think I don't know. I think
you're onto something though, Carp. I'm completely with you because I saw that listing. First of all, if you're looking for a house in the north suburbs and you go to do that tour and you see a bunch of plays where the hands off to a receiver who's a running back and he gets stopped 3 yards in the backfield, that's the wallpaper. That's Nagy's old house. You're there. Congratulations, you found it. You're onto something though, Carm, because I thought about this exact same thing. I'm like, that's the house of a guy who thought he was going to be in Chicago for 20 or 30 years. He thought he was going to be a lifer as Bears head coach, win Super Bowl after Super Bowl, just be so spectacular at this job. That is the house of a guy who never in a million years thought he was going to be 4 years and out, and probably could have been 3 years and out. And it was stunning to see that beautiful house and everything he did with it. And think that's a house for a guy who's now Patrick Mahomes, his quarterbacks coach, going back to his old mentors. He just got thrown out of town here. He never would have thought in a million years, I'm going to get the conservative house because maybe this might not work out.
Do you think he's still living in the house because he's down in Kansas City? But I suppose he could if I owned that house, I'd commute back and forth just to hang out in the house.
Yeah, I thought he should have, and this is more of a football thing, but I thought he would have been better suited to take the year off, better himself as a coach by learning other schemes. And there's a lot of things he could have done aside from just living in that beautiful house where he could have made himself better. Do the Mike McCarthy thing where you're studying tons of different schemes and watching film after every Sunday. But also, he's a dad. Be like a dad of 4 kids. I thought he would have been best suited both personally and professionally to take the year off. That house is still on the market, like you said, and he's going down to KC to coach up Patrick Mahomes, who I don't think needs much coaching.
Yeah, I know. Well, that part of it, Andy Reid's willing to hire you. You take that gig because I don't know. I thought the guy was on some level belonged a head coach at a junior college and or high school. Which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great job, and you can really impact young kids. But that sort of feels more like where Nagy should be because this is no guru at anything. He's not. I don't think he's going to develop a quarterback. I don't think he's going to create some great offense. So I just kind of thought he'd be like sort of a rah-rah guy on the high school level, and that would be sweet. However, you couldn't pay for that house. That, you know what his tax bill is every year? His tax bill, $62,000. $62,000 in taxes to own that house in Lake Bluff. I don't know about you, Emma, but that would not work for me financially in a year. So I know
he can swing it though. He can swing it.
He can. He's gonna make it $4 million a year. If he was being smart with his money, I'm sure he's fine. But all right, I'm doing a video from his house. I wonder if I'm gonna run into Naggy and get a ticket for trespassing and not make it to minicamp. But I'm going over there, Emma. You're welcome to come.
Great content.
Yeah, right. I think it's good content. Let's go. All right. Hey, thank you for coming on, Chris. Thank you for watching the Windy City Chicago Bears podcast. If you're watching it on tape, which most people are, Mondays, 5 Central, we are live. If you want to jump on in, we would love to see you on the live stream as we build the channel. Emma, look forward to have you on in the future. Can't wait to see you out there this week, buddy. Let's have some fun. Let's have a mini camp. Let's stay hydrated. That's going to be a thing. We got to look out for everybody else out there. And shout out, by the way, as we say goodbye here, to John Moon Mullen, who's covered the Bears for, I don't know, 2 decades, maybe more even. Moon was as beloved as anybody on the Bears beat, just first class every single way. Back in the day when I was producing Cap's radio show, call Moon. Never said no. I'm at dinner, but let me pull out and I'll talk to you on the street. Are you sure? Yes, no problem. Nice. The best. John Moon Mullen is you're worthy of everything that's being said on you about you on social media. It's a great reflection back to you for the person that you were to all of us. So similar to JD, man. Thank you. Moon, from all of us. Emma, great to be with you, brother. Thanks for doing it.
Take care, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks for checking out the Windy City Chicago Bears podcast. I hope I'm hitting the right thing here.